I was in town and I heard that it had burnt. 2nd of February, I'd woken up. I was 70 years old. I owned 3 pairs of pants, 4 shirts, some underwear and the boots I was wearing. And that was it. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know that everything out here had been destroyed. I just knew that things had burnt. And when I came out, I discovered everything had burnt. There was absolutely nothing left.
It came through a lot quicker. It was a stinking hot day, and it just went through really fast, and there was no warning.
Jess and I worked 36 hours straight. We didn't eat. We rarely slept. We couldn't sleep. The fires were all around us. We were a pocket right here.
National Parks Ranger came up in his four-wheel drive, telling us that if we stayed we would die and that we needed to leave immediately. And we said no, we're quite prepared to defend and we've got all the equipment we need and we're quite confident that we can fight this fire. And he said you won't be able to. He said it's too big.
The fire is so intense and we didn't prepare anything. We didn't pack our bags or we didn't really, prepare to leave.
And when we were driving out, we could see our kangaroos jumping through the flames and some of them on fire, and we thought, gee, it's pretty bad. And when we got out to the road, which is about 100 metres from the house, we could see that it was an inferno. There were just trees crashing down everywhere on fire and flames everywhere. So we drove up the main road for about 5 minutes through flames and sparks and embers, and then eventually drove out of the fire. The fire's getting young.
My name's John Rocke and I'm on a small farm here in Cathcart. It's a 100-acre bush block. I've been everything from a public servant. Then I went into my own businesses in Canberra, ran them for some years. Then went into hospitality. I was in that for about 20 years, running big hotels in Canberra. Retired, didn't like retirement, ended up training as a chef. Then went teaching with the education department down in Delegate, teaching primary school children how to cook. And retired about 18 months ago and decided, I'll stay on the farm.
My name's Jill Redwood and I live in Goongerah here, which is a little hidden valley in the southeast of Australia. I came here almost 40 years ago now, and I just wanted to be somewhere where there wasn't a lot of crowds, where I could grow veggies, keep chooks, have my animals. And here I am in this beautiful little Shangri-La. I've got 2 big Clydesdale horses. I've trained them to be ridden and to work in harness. I've got dairy goats, which provide my milk and cheese and yogurt, etc., and they eat the blackberries. Then I've got a dog who I love dearly. And then what next? The geese, flock of geese and chooks for eggs. And then it goes down to guinea pigs in the orchard to keep the grass down. I don't eat any of my animals. And all the wildlife that are constantly coming and going here. Yeah, they're all part of the family.
My name's Michael Devine. My role is actually I work here with the Australian Defence Department. I work as a storage engineer and contract to them in Canberra. But this is my home.
My name is Jared. I live in Goongerah, which is in Far East Gippsland in Victoria. I'm on a 10-acre property which is on river flats. and it's a permaculture property, organic self-sufficiency farm, and moved back here permanently after my kids finished high school at the end of November, which was the same time that the lightning struck on the hill over onto the west of here.
Hi, my name is Mimi. I'm originally from Thailand.
Hey, and I'm Peter, and I'm from Melbourne. I've always lived in Melbourne. And we moved here, as Mimi said, in 2014 to have a bit of a change of lifestyle from inner city living. And when we came here, we realised that there was no one advocating for the native wildlife and the forests. So I thought, well, yeah, that's something that I can do. So we started up the wildlife sanctuary, started rescuing native wildlife and raising their orphans, fixing up the injured ones, and then releasing them here on our little property.
Yeah, my name's Melissa. I live in Rockton, New South Wales. We've got 100 acres here with Genoa River frontage. We evacuated all my two children. I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. We've evacuated several days before the fire came through here on the 4th of January. The 31st of, or it was New Year's Eve, I think, there was a fire down on the Victorian border, that big fire. So there were sort of several, that was behind us, so I was worried about it coming through. And plus it got really smoky here for days beforehand, and it sort of went red and sort of dark at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so visibility was really bad. And we lost satellite internet here. And I just didn't feel comfortable staying here with no communication or no warning, no way of any warning if the fire was coming through. We're also surrounded by pine plantation, so I was very concerned that we would get trapped down here, and it was just a death trap. So we made that decision to get out. It was pretty horrendous. I think most of the residents down here ended up evacuating to further up the hill where it was a bit safer. Unfortunately, there was several homes further down the road that were lost or destroyed. So I was one of the lucky ones, I think, in that my little house survived, but we lost all the shedding and machinery and fences, and a lot of the gullies of bush went up. I've got a little Western red cedar house. The previous owners set it up with a sprinkler on the roof. So I think that's the only reason my house survived, was the fact that forestry or someone passing my house must have turned the sprinkler on the roof, because everything else is burnt, and the house should have gone. I had to climb up into the roof the other day to have a look, and there's all like chunks of black ash and whatever down the timber beam that runs inside the ceiling. So I don't know how the house is still standing, but I'm very grateful it is. And as far as I'm concerned, it should have burnt. So, but yeah, I'm very grateful to that person who happened to drive past and turn the sprinkler on, because I think it's the only thing that saved the house.
It was kind of strange because I'd evacuated twice because the place wasn't defendable. I'd had a talk, the fire brigade had been out, and the deal was if the fire ever did come, you'd burn. But the fire didn't come, and I'd always been around it. So twice I'd left here and nothing happened. So I'd done all the right things, packed up, taken it. Third time, I went with a mate, didn't bother to take anything. And I got caught in the fires when they came through. Took out the house, the outbuildings, everything on the place got burnt. Having been a horrible hoarder all my life, I had a huge amount of paintings, statues, Christmas decorations. I was the monster for Christmas decorations. every year I used to buy a really special decoration. We had paid a lot of money for an electronic one or whatever. But all the photos I ever had of everything I've ever done in my life all got burnt. So I have no history, I guess, as far as that goes, because the photos I'd taken, I'd also put on my computer, and to save room, I'd put them on thumb drives. And of course, all the thumb drives and the computers all got burnt as well. So all that has vanished. So as of, my history goes back to the 2nd of February, and we start again from there. The odd photo turns up on Facebook, it's a memory or something like that. But as far as family photos or the children growing up or anything like that, all gone. So
The fire started on a farm about 10 kilometres north of here. That was the Crewa fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not put out, and was allowed to burn, and it burnt through State Forest and National Park. That then started another fire 2 kilometres to the east of here. And then another fire started about 20 k's south of here, a place called Rocke Hall, and that started burning towards us. So within a period of about 2 weeks, we had 3 mega fires coming to our property, and they all arrived at the same time on the 1st of February.
Joined at our property.
Yeah, they joined here. So we had to fight, because we decided to stay and defend, and we had to fight three fire fronts at the one time. There's nobody else here, just the two of us.
When the national park guy came, when he said we have to leave, we quickly grabbed joeys that we put inside the house. The fire came so fast, and the flame just come up high, up to the tree. I can see just before we leave. So we grabbed 4 joeys and couldn't find one, and just left without him. And I was so worried about him. Just couldn't see him anywhere. He was supposed to be inside his pouch, but he's gone. He'd been walking around in the house. Yeah, it was really hard. It was so hard at that time.
I knew it was going to be a really bad year for bushfires because it had been dry. So I prepared a lot of things. I put sprinklers on the front of the house. I put, sand socks in the gutters and filled the downpipes, filled the spouts with water. Everything was ready to defend the place. And when it did come in, it came in across that hill over there. You could see it coming over the ridge top, and then it was spotting everywhere. Just the burning bark and leaves were just igniting things all around. Burnt down the hill, burnt along the road, burnt along the river. There wasn't anything that wasn't sort of alight, except for this little patch here where I managed to protect 6 sheds, 3 dwellings, and lost two sheds, the early ones, the one I used to live in when I first came here for 8 years. That was a bit sad. But yeah, it was quite a task, but I managed to save what I'd built up over almost 40 years here.
But I did do a lot of preparation. Lots of mowing and then watering the grass and growing it. So from November through till when the fires came at the end of December, I'd mow the grass all the way around my green zone and then water it. And so it would come back green and lush, so that if there was ever any embers that fell on the grass, there wouldn't be anything that it could catch alight with. So I did that with a circle all the way around the cottage and the workshop and the house. And the gardens were already like that because there was poultry in there and it was pretty wet already. But before the fires, I hadn't got the bunker here yet. And so my kids said, look, don't risk it, you're on your own. And, you don't know how bad the fire could be, so come back and get out of there. So I did. I left the day before the fires came. And then I was effectively blocked out, couldn't get back in again once the fires came through. And because the road for 70 kilometres down to the south had all been impacted by fire, there was fire still on the roads, etc. So anyway, I couldn't get my car up here because there was trees all over the road. So I decided that my animals were still up here, and so I just got hold of a push bike from a friend and then rode my bike up the road, so I could lift my bike over the top of all of the dead trees that had fallen. And there's a couple of times when I was coming up that that there was quite a bit of fire on both sides of the road, and so I was a little bit afraid that I maybe had got into something I couldn't get out of. But I got here. It took me about 9 hours, but I got here, and I had lost a couple of goats and just some poultry, some ducks had died as well, but everything else had survived, which was amazing.
So back in November, we started preparing for what we knew would be a fire. So through December, we prepared, we cleared paddocks, we put fire sprinklers on any structure that we had. The house has already got fire sprinklers on it. That was done there by design. I did that myself. But every single structure we had, we put sprinklers on, we cleared areas, and started developing a very serious fire plan because we could see it happening. Around about mid-January, the fires had gone down either side of us, and we thought, oh, that's okay. Maybe we've missed it. We had a bit of rain, and we thought, no, this is good. And then about a week later, it stopped raining, and the fires started in an area just up the road here. Words can't describe this. It was getting bloody scary. Gave my daughter a call, Jessica Devine, and said, Jess, I'm going to need you to come down here on about 1st of Feb. Based on all the information I had, we suspected the fire would come through around about the 1st of Feb. So Jessica came down the night before. Unfortunately, at the same time, the winds started up. Both my partner, Gab Moorland's home was going to be threatened by a fire near Canberra. My parents, who live in Mikalago, was also going to get impacted by a fire that was just across the range from them. And then I was going to get hit. My eldest daughter, Emily, chose to be with my mum and dad to help them out. And as I said, my youngest one came down here and looked after me. Gab had her son to look after his place when his place was also going to be threatened if the fires got really bad in Canberra. So we had done everything we could. On the morning of the 1st of February, we basically made sure everything was running and that all the systems were going to work. The fire pumps were working. We had managed to get 2 truckloads of water a week before that. And I do thank the community for allowing me to get that because it really helped. It is very difficult talking about the fires. But on the 1st of Feb, about 3 o'clock, it really came in. It came in from the southwest, and we thought at this point it was going to be fine because the wind was on the other side, so it was pushing the fire towards the road. And we thought, no, we can actually cope with this. So both Jess and I were fighting the fires on the south and really trying to keep things under control. And then we heard this massive roar from the northwest, where the other fire now came in to get us. On that day, we copped 2 fires. 2 fronts joined right here, and we had to fight another fire, which came in from this side. So we had to come around the other side of the house, start fighting the fires, and we continued to fight for 36 hours. We drank water and a little bit of Coca-Cola to keep us going because we just needed sugar. You couldn't eat. My daughter was violently ill 3 or 4 times during the day. She said it was impossible to keep fighting this stuff. But we did. We fought it. I lost my hives, but the animals are good. The garden's good. Good swim spa. Everything's good. House, good. Solar panels are good. Rest of it, shot to shit. Every night now for the next 5 days, I woke up in the middle of the night and checked right around the property to see what was happening. And every night I'd find something that was still burning and I'd have to go back out and put out the fire. The trees were fully alight and the fire was nearly twice the height of the trees that were around here. And to have it circling us, and then it went down the coast. At this point, we just kept monitoring, because every time, as I said, if we didn't monitor it, a little fire would start back up and then come back in. Luckily, about a week later, we had 170 mils of rain, which pretty much put everything out. We'd done everything we could. We were exhausted and we had enough.
No. Oh my god. Whoa. Oh wow, there's another one. And that one. And some just there.
So I'd gone for 2 days, and because the fire was still burning, and it burnt for another 2 days, so we couldn't come back until it was a little bit safer. So after 48 hours, we thought that's enough. It wasn't even 48, maybe 36 hours. So we can't stay away. So we ended up driving back through the police blockades and past the fire trucks.
Because I can't see the back. Oh my god. The walkway made from plastic or melted. Can't use it anymore. Smart food. It's so sad. Nothing left. Camping ground all wrecked.
So once we realised that the house was okay, we immediately started searching for our animals.
Even though at that time there still spot fires around the
Well, the
property.
place was still on fire.
It's still on fire.
Yeah, there was fires everywhere. But yeah, we started looking and searching for them, and we found 2 in the vegetable garden that had badly burnt. So we grabbed those and brought them inside and sedated them, gave them pain relief, treated their burns with the limited resources we had, then searched for more. It's all right, boy. She can hardly walk, this one. Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful. A few others came home that night, and later that afternoon they came back with burns, so we dragged them inside. So I think in the first day we probably rescued maybe a dozen. Not all of them survived. Some needed to be euthanized. They were so badly burnt. They needed to be put down. And then probably for the next 6 or 7 days, because the fires were still going, so it was really difficult to get assistance here. It was too dangerous for people to come and help. So it was just us 2.
When we first came, like a week after we came back, the place was so quiet, and I felt like in the middle of the space, it's just so quiet, so scary quiet.
Yeah, no insects.
No insects, nothing.
No birds.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
It
Dead
was-
silence.
It was scary, but thankfully, everything's. Look, these birds coming back now, and the live birds the other day, and which is good, make me feel great, and some frogs. After the fire, we had flood as well, so everything started to come back slowly. So it's good.
The exact figures escapes me at the moment because there are just so many.
Mm.
There could be 25, 30 animals, mostly macropods. So we're talking kangaroos and wallabies because they can move quickly. Trouble is, though, even though they can move quickly, they had to move through fire ground. So they had to go through fire to get to safety, and that's where they sustained their burns. So, of the animals that we had here in the sanctuary, we're lucky if 10% survived. The rest all perished in the fires because it was so intense. Over 1 billion animals died. 1 billion.
Just because of this bushfire.
That's why the forests are quiet.
Yeah.
Because all the animals are dead. 1 billion in a 6-month period. So, and of the ones we rescued, there were always issues with the vets on how to treat these animals because, unfortunately, we found that the vets, and this is most vets in Australia, aren't trained to treat marsupials. They're used to cats and dogs and sheep and cows. That's what they train them for at school. So their knowledge of Australian wildlife is very, very limited. So they weren't sure on what painkillers to give them, what drugs to give them. It was good they listened to me. Even though I'm not a vet, I have extensive experience looking after macropods, kangaroos, and I know what drugs you can and can't give them. So they would suggest something, and then I would say, well, look, perhaps you should use this instead. And they're all very accommodating. They said, okay, yeah, we'll use that drug if you feel that's not going to compromise them. So that was good. So we lost a few to had to be euthanized because they were so badly injured. So the survival rate was pretty good. I reckon it's probably about 30% of the animals that were treated survived. And now they're being released. So 4 or 5 months after the fires.
Still find the injured one that we miss or
yeah, there are still injured animals out there, but it's too late for them. So he's got a fracture of his tibia.
Tibia fracture.
Tibia, yeah, which is normal. You can fix a tibia.
Yeah.
You fix it in humans. Why wouldn't you fix it in an animal? Because nobody wants to spend the time or the money.
Yeah.
He's a good boy.
So cute.
I like his muscles here, the chest.
They're actually
muscle.
glands.
Oh.
I know it's really cool to say he's got muscles. He's got pec muscles, but they're glands.
Yeah.
So when they're big and strong, that means that he's healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah. Where we live is a kilometre above sea level. It's known as a wet montane forest. It's where all the wetlands are, where the peats are. This place is not supposed to burn. It's just too wet. And one of the reasons why we bought here was because the bushfire risk was very, very low. And according to the government, it's an 80-year event here, is a bushfire. But that's with a modified environment where they've done logging and where they've done land clearing, farming. It will be an 80-year event. Without that, you're lucky if it burned every hundreds and hundreds of years. The ground's just too wet to burn. So when the fires came here, it was very, very surprising. We're surrounded by state forest, which is logged regularly. So they take out the big trees, leave the little tiny saplings there, which are just fuel for a fire. Which increases the risk of bushfires coming. So if a lightning strike, for instance, hits the forest, there's just lots and lots of little trees full of eucalyptus oil that can catch fire, and that will spread the fire to the crown, which is the top of the trees. And that's what happened here. So, with the drought and with the drying of the forests here, there's no doubt in my mind that it's all driven by a change in climate, which is driven by global warming. No two ways about it.
Probably, I think the drought and just being so dry has been a major contributing factor to the fires here. The other thing is too, in previous years, we do get a lot of, it is a fairly high lightning strike area, out sort of particularly down towards the Victorian border, or the other side of the Victorian border. So when there is an awful lot of bush and and country there, timbered country. So we get a lot of fires from bushfires, from lightning strikes. I'd come from Victoria, and the Yarra Valley, and we had the Black Saturday fires. I think they got to within 5 kilometres of where we lived. Our property didn't burn down in the Yarra Valley, but it was close to, got to within 5 kilometres of our property down there. So, and there's a lot of bush, like big tall trees and bush, and it just, went through and just, a lot of destruction. A lot of people lost their lives. And it's just part and parcel of living here. It's always something you're aware of, that's, there is that risk that, at some stage a fire's going to come through.
When I first came here, it was 1983, and that's because a bushfire had burnt me out where I lived further east in a little valley there. And I was hoping I wouldn't ever have to go through that again. I was right in the centre of that. In fact, I was evacuated from a fire tower at the time. In 2014, we had another one. 2003, we had a fire that was threatening us, but it actually never got to us. That burned out part of the Snowy River National Park. 2014, the fire came. It was actually on 3 sides of us: Mount Jersey, Ellery Creek Track and Joyce Creek down here. So we were surrounded by fire, and that went for about 8 weeks. Luckily, it didn't come in the big whoosh that it did this year. That was driven, I'd say, by extreme climate conditions, extreme drought for years. And after a forest is burnt, it just becomes more flammable. It seems to lose its natural fireproofing, fire resistance, like you get your ferns and your damp understory, and then that keeps the moisture in the soil. And once you've had a fire, it takes out a lot of that, and it takes a while for it to regenerate. So the 2014 fires, I think, dried up the landscape a bit, changed the vegetation makeup. And after the drought and another severe bushfire season, it just came at us in a massive fireball, really. And I don't think things are going to get any easier either. I'd say we'll be up for another fire, another 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 years. It's part of life now, sadly.
The fires do come through the forest on a fairly regular basis. And we are noticing that it is getting drier for too long. The Australian bush catches on fire. It's always been designed to do that. Is it getting worse? I don't know. I think it is a little bit. So, I think it'll happen again. We need to prepare for it again. We are going to buy a bunker this time to actually get into a bunker if it gets really, really bad and we lose everything. Through a series of very fortunate events, we managed to save this place. But really, if we had a massive wind behind it and we didn't have the help, there is no way I could have saved this place.
Australia, it's a propitious place for bushfire because it's happened since long time, but now with global warming, it's happened more frequently and stronger, and it's the same thing everywhere. And if you go in the US for the tornado and every place in the world with the global warming, the thing is very bad, and also. In Australia, you got a lot of big forestry company, and He put a pine tree for make a wood for construction. He use a lot of wood everywhere in Australia. And
The plantation tree is not because there is plantation, there is fire, but it doesn't help. There is some plantation here in this area. We know this kind of plantation doesn't help. So if there is a fire and you have a plantation like that, the fire is going to be a lot stronger.
No doubt that climate change is affecting the southeastern corner of Australia, just like it is most parts of the world. I mean, you just have to look and see what the fires that are happening in Russia and the US, and it's incredible how much of the landscape is starting to burn. And there was areas of bush through here, forest through here that hadn't burnt for thousands of years, and now, and it was so incredibly destructive. It's not business as usual anymore. This is all completely different.
About it. Now we have to deal with this every year. The threat of bushfires coming. The fire season usually starts in September, I think it is, around here. It's now starting 1 to 2 months earlier. So, we're getting fires in the middle of winter, and the fire season is longer. It's supposed to end around March. I think March the 1st is the official end date. We still had fires burning here in April.
Yeah.
So, you've got an extra 1 or 2 months either side of a 6-month fire season. So that just leaves you with 3 or 4 months of the year where there is no fire danger. And that is unheard of, especially for a montane forest like this.
World governments that are in the pockets of the fossil fuel industry. That's what's driving this. There's no rationale. There's no science, it doesn't matter what you present these people, the governments, they don't change anything. They keep digging up the fossil fuels, keep creating more greenhouse gases, keep cutting down forests, which are the planet's climate moderators. And now they're saying, okay, well, if we can't dig up coal and extract oil and gas and burn it and create a hotter climate, we'll have to cut down forests and throw them into electricity furnaces as renewable energy. Well, that is just increasing. I don't think there's another way that anybody could make this planet hotter than by what's happening now with all of the world governments. Democracies are not democracies.
2020 is like bringing in this new era where we all adjust. Something has to change. You can see it with with all of the protests in Hong Kong, and then student strikes that are happening across the planet, and now the Black Lives Matter. There's an unrest that's happening that is something's just not. We've gone too far, and we've got to somehow turn it around to be regenerative rather than forcing all of the profits and all the surpluses up into just the elite rich people. The Aboriginals were here, the First Nation people, the Gunai-Kurnai and the Bidwali people were here for 50 or 60,000 years looking after this country and never let it get like it is at the moment. So, yeah, we need to take note of what's happening with our environment around us, no doubting it. Yeah.
There is a couple of things. I actually made a contribution to the Federal Royal Commission on the fires this time. And one of the recommendations I've put is that we need to do regular burn-offs. The Indigenous population knew how to look after these forests in a way by doing small-scale burns. When it's fairly, when it's wet, when it's not dry, when it's easy to control, small-scale bushfires mean that pockets of vegetation have already been burnt. The fires can't go forward. They cleared a 6-lane area up near Bombala. The fire jumped that. So, I'm talking large areas that need to be actually burnt on a regular basis to enable us to live here. And one of the things I've noticed, that for 2 people, we managed to keep a fire away from a very small part of this forest. They've survived, they haven't been damaged, and that's only 2 people fighting a fairly large fire. If there were small-scale fires through this area to clear it all out on a regular basis, the big fires can't come through. We need to be friends with the fire. We need to understand it. The trees here were designed to live in fire. So you need to understand the bush and you need to really work with it and live with it.
5.5 million hectares. There's 5.5 million hectares of land in New South Wales, just one state, was burnt in the bushfires. 5.5 million hectares. They've now started resuming logging in the areas that weren't burnt. So normally state forests are the only forests that can be commercially logged. Most of the state forests were affected by bushfire. Most of them were burnt. And when they're logged, they're not logged for wood to build tables and chairs and to build houses. They're logged so that they can go to a chip mill where they're chipped into a pulp, and then they're shipped off to China, Taiwan, Japan, where that pulp is made into disposable paper products. So almost exclusively all the logging that is done around here is for that purpose. So when the forests were burnt, that meant that there was no a limited supply of wood that they can chip and pulp and send off to Asia. So they've decided that they're going to build a new factory, and the government is funding it. And this factory will build what we call wood briquettes. And these briquettes are like pallets. They're like about this big, like a little log. But it's all compressed wood fibre. And it's their intention is to ship them off to Japan and Europe to be burnt in biofuel, biomass electricity plants. So they can't chip the forests anymore because they're too burnt for paper production. So now they're going to build a plant so that they can chip all of the burnt trees and make briquettes to be burnt for electricity generation. Now, what does two things. First of all, it's going to destroy habitat, and all these trees, they all store carbon, and they will not, once they're gone, they will not be able to reduce the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. And the second thing is when you burn them and you're releasing that carbon back into the atmosphere, which again is going to drive global warming and climate change. So their thinking is I don't understand it. It's all driven by money. The majority of Australians do not want the forests destroyed, and they would be appalled if they knew to what level it's being destroyed. The trouble is the government legislates to protect the logging industry, and in New South Wales, there's only one corporation that is allowed to log the forests, and it just happens to be owned by the state government. So the state government legislates to protect that corporation, and if people like me go out into the forest and demonstrate, we have been, which we do, we face massive fines, we face jail and arrest.
Yep, that's right.
So, you can go out there and you can stop the logging machines for a few hours. The police will come. They will tell you to leave. If you don't leave, they will arrest you and charge you there's quite a few charges they can charge you with now. But the fines are huge. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars, and we're talking many, many months in jail.
That's right.
For interrupting a government-owned corporation.
So I would suggest that people who have the vote don't waste it. Think a bit more about what's happening, who they're voting for, what they're voting for, and hopefully that might start to get some changes in the way we're governed and what's happening with our environment. That's one thing. That's one important thing. The other thing is to change the way we live and to try not to be part of that big machine that is creating these greenhouse gases. That, plastic everywhere we go, everything we buy is covered in plastic. It's a fossil fuel. And that is creating more greenhouse gases too. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is just to live with a smaller footprint as possible. Even if people live in the city, it's still possible to do that, to change the lifestyle, to walk more, to ride your bicycle more, what impact it has on the planet and the environment in general. I think everybody has to become really aware of that now for things to change at the speed that we require it to, if we're not going to just cascade into an abyss of, it's just no return. It's really easy for me to give advice here because I've got property. I can grow gardens, vegetables, orchard. I don't have to be part of the consumer society. I recycle things. I patch my clothes when they get rips or wear out. Very, very small impact on the planet. But I think people in the city can do that too. And if the younger generation could it could become trendy even, wear recycled things, op shop instead of buying things new all the time. Avoid packaging.
I think one of the main reasons for climate change is the carbon dioxide emissions, and I think that we have to reduce that. So, I think the industries have to change to have less emissions, or I try not to eat that much meat, which I also think is a problem that, the meat industry also causes a lot of emissions. I think that the little things can change a lot because if everyone tries to do a bit to stop the climate change, it will be a lot in the end. So I think, these little things are a good start.
Maybe we have to think about what we buy, where this kind of stuff come from, and it's maybe better to buy local and just be aware.
If you buy a real gin, not the gin for the girl with elastan inside, and if you buy a real gin, you can keep it 10 years without no problem. So if you don't care about fashion, you can buy a gin and keep it 10 years. And for me, it's a good thing to make this kind of choice for everything, consuming wisely and buy good product and maybe be wise of what you buy and take information. And
I think a big part of it's educating ourselves and educating other people. That's massive. And I think people do it in different ways. Like for me, I think I have a spiritual connection to things that are nature associated. So when I'm in the ocean or when I'm in the green, the kind of tactile connection helps me feel connected to the elements. And it's when I'm connected to the elements that I want to work to protect them, and I want to work in harmony with them and not against them. And then I try to use that in my life to educate other people about what they can do for the oceans, for instance. And I think everyone else needs to kind of find a way, especially people in big cities. Like a big part of it is just getting out to the countryside on a weekend or going to the beach. And I know a lot of people don't believe in spirituality or have that compass, and that's okay. But also just engaging all 5 of your senses as a human, like with touch especially, and getting into nature's elements will help you appreciate it more and see the beauty of it. And when you see the beauty of these things, and also the destruction, you go to Bali, you see photos on Instagram, beautiful beaches. You go there and there's plastic everywhere. So I think when you see kind of stark contrast like this, it makes you think, hold on, what can I do to help? And then everyone can work in their own way. I think we all have a purpose as humans. So I think finding your purpose and finding a way to ensure that you put environmental protection into that. The only way that's going to change is if we all come together individually and make changes in our lives. We all need to reduce our own carbon footprints, fly less, use reusables, make things out of wood, things like that. But also I think it's on governments and big corporations, because if governments don't legislate that big corporations that are kind of more income generating, if there's no legislation put on them, they're not going to change anything. So I think it needs to be an effort between government, corporations, and people to kind of create environmental positive change, like a wave of change. And I think over time, it's going to be a long-term commitment. It can kind of slow down what's happening and hopefully avoid a bushfire to this extent happening in the future. And also with COVID, that's another massive sign that says stop. And it's only now that we can see with COVID that places that have been left alone and we've all been quarantined or in our homes, the oceans are coming back to life. The rivers are flowing properly again. Nature's having time to heal. So in a way, it's Mother Nature just giving us a slap back and telling us to wake up, pay attention, and to do the work, to kind of work in harmony as opposed to against it. And I think as humans, we often forget that.
And also speak out. And I think that's one of the big things. I've always said that one outspoken advocate for the environment is worth 100 people who might use, a cloth shopping bag or ride their bike. We need to also speak out and make that be known to all our friends, our family. Don't be afraid to ring up talkback radio, to write letters to the paper, to contact your local politicians. Organise a group of people, friends, family, neighbours, to go and see politicians. Let them know that we're not happy with them, what they're doing. So get active. That's another big thing I think people can do, is get active. Speak out. Speak for the planet. Speak for those things that can't speak for themselves.
It's part of the reason that I'm up here as well, is to be able to open the farm up as a demonstration of how to disconnect from the destructive lifestyle of just consuming goods and services all the time and not doing anything for yourself. And so by showing that, look, you can do it this way and you can do it that way, and this is how I've done it and that seems to work, and having it open so people can come in and see it, that's part of what I'm trying to do here. Trying to provide another alternative, because, people are raising their placards and saying that we've got to stop doing this and we've got to stop doing that, but it's difficult to know what best to do to respond. So, yeah, I think growing your own food and living simply and sharing your surpluses amongst your community is it's a big step towards a better world, rather than relying on, massive agriculture that is destroying our planet as well. Factory farms and big monocultural crops. Yeah, if we can do it on the small scale, then it creates much more biodiversity and much more life, which is what we need to have.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the fires went through, and then 2 weeks later, I went to have a biopsy because I'd had a lump in my breast, and found out that I had breast cancer. So it's been pretty full on for me for the last sort of 5-6 months to reach rock bottom, just be burnt out, and then I had relationship breakdown sort of July last year. So just felt like I'd lost everything, and just sort of in a time when we've had like COVID-19, and in one way it sort of brought the worst out in a lot of people, like with all the toilet paper hoarding and that sort of thing. There's a lot of people out there that it's just brought the best out in, and just I've been blown away just by the support, and like even complete strangers, and just I've got these beautiful quilts, and like they've been sent down from Darwin from these quilting groups, that these women that make these quilts, and another from Cooma and Queensland, and it's just these quilts have been made with love, and they just it's just blown me away, just the generosity and the thought, and just the love that we receive from just community and complete strangers and Blaine's Aid, and just so I feel very blessed and very grateful.
I think the fact that everything went probably made it easier. If you'd only lost a third or a half, you'd be saying, oh, why wasn't it so-and-so? But because everything went, you've got to start again with nothing, and that's an easier way to do it than starting with a bit. I'm fascinated with Blaine's Aid. I really am. But the amount of time people are giving up for other people, I don't know if I would. Really, that's being dead honest. I'd like to think I would, but I just think it's incredible. I really do. It's such a nice thing to do. I love the fact that everyone comes from everywhere. I am disappointed that there's no young Aussies, that they just don't volunteer, and that's the country we've now developed. I think I've lived through the best parts of Australia. I really do. That when I was younger and stuff, people did volunteer, people did help. They were always there. The Rural Fire Brigade had more people than could handle. All that's gone. And I think it's very, very sad.
We haven't been deterred by the fires. We're still here. and we're still rescuing animals. And we've been very lucky to get assistance from another foreign organisation, Humane Society International. They have an office here in Australia. They're set up here, and they've been fantastic. They've been able to fund the rebuilding of our fences and the rebuilding of buildings that have been destroyed for the animals. And another organisation, Blaze Aid, they've sent volunteers from overseas here to come and do all the labouring work.
Yeah.
So without them, it would just be left to Mimi and I,
Yeah.
and it would
it's a
take
big
us
job.
months and months and months to do all this work. So we appreciate Blaze Aid for coming out, and Humane Society International for funding it all.
Yeah.
We couldn't possibly afford to pay for it all ourselves. It'd be impossible.
This is all donations mainly from Humane Society International, and some donation bit and pieces. People think carers, just looking after animals and cuddles them and give them bottles. They're actually sick all the time. So you have to make sure everything ready for them. So this is all their towels, their pouches.
So at this point in time, we've been rebuilding. And as I said, I thank Blaze Aid amazingly for the work they've done. The fences have all been removed. Lango Rocke removed all the old shed. It's just been huge. It really has been huge. All of the people that have helped, the professionalism that has come through for the recovery, the huge donations that were made. The greenhouse cover was damaged in the fire. It was donated back to us. It's amazing. We are so overwhelmed with the generosity. The fences I know have been built with volunteer love, and I'll call it that. It's such an amazing gift.
I decided to join the camp because at the time, COVID had started to affect everywhere. And I didn't really know what else to do. And then I saw an advert on Facebook. And obviously I lost my job at the time because tourism was closing down. So I decided to come over and help. I was looking for farm work as well, rather than sitting in like a room for a couple of months. So it felt like a way to like be useful. I didn't expect the level of gratitude from the farmers. I didn't expect them to be so appreciative of everything we were doing. Especially with like people like Melissa, John, and the guys down at the sanctuary. Like they'll say to you at the end of the day, like, thank you so much for coming to help. And they kind of want to get involved in other ways as well, like coming and having dinner with us every so often, or just coming and checking if we need anything and helping us out where they can. So I think it was kind of not just community within the camp, community outside. So you bond with them a lot more. And I also think it made me realize that like these people, like we're affected by COVID, of course, but these people just had the bushfires and then they also had that on top of it. So especially with people like John, like I saw in him, like every day he was super, super happy. Like regardless of the fact that like he had, I don't know how many burnt cars out there and his whole forest was black and he doesn't have a home, but he has himself and his dog and he's just really happy all the time. So I think it was a really nice inspiration for me to see that from a farmer and feel like more appreciative of my own circumstances in a way, but also more connected to him because he was open and willing to share how he was feeling and his experiences. There's an importance in realizing that you're nothing, but at the same time, you are something. It's quite contradictory, and that we can make change in little circles, especially in communities. Like small changes in a smaller environment, I think sometimes can do more than trying to instill something massive. Again, a lot of them are from completely different walks of life. A lot of them haven't met people from the countries we come from, like Japan, Korea, England, France, Germany, Spain, Chile. Like everyone is from everywhere, and I think it shows that like there's a unity between all of us, no matter where we're from.
We land in Australia at the beginning of COVID-19, and we don't find a job. And instead to stay in Sydney and spend all your money, we want to find a place for got a skill and meet people and like this kind of farmer and find a job after. And yeah, it's worth it.
We are a lot of people in the same place from different countries, so it's very enrichissant.
Sorry?
C'est enrichissant. It's very good to learn about these people we going to never meet again and in Australia. So
Why do you say that? You don't want to meet Paula another time?
yeah, no. I mean, if we didn't come here, we never meet these people.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a strong thing to be all together. Yeah.
Well, the future's good. We're getting animals coming in from other parts of New South Wales and Victoria, so they'll be raised here and they will grow, and then they will go out into the forest and they will repopulate. So it'll take many, many years, but eventually the forests will come back to life, and hopefully I'll see it in my lifetime. But it can take, 100 years, 200 years for a forest to regenerate to what it was. So I probably won't see it the way it was, but I will get to see it regrowing.
I feel like I've had a wake-up call, and it's time to assess life, and I need to find a bit of balance with it. I think we had a business, and it was just, our life was pretty fast-paced and just go, a lot of stress and that sort of thing. And I don't know, I'm just at that point where I just want to live. I want to, spend some quality time with my kids and make some really good memories, and just have time to be able to sort of stop and smell the roses and just, appreciate and love life. And so I've always loved the land because of my passion for horses and riding and that sort of thing. I love it here because you can ride out and you're not, you can go out the back into the state forest or the pines and that, and you just don't come across any fences. You can just ride and ride and ride, and that. So I still ride, not as often but I'm planning now to, once my horses come back, and I'm after the surgery, then I'm planning to ride.
Get the solar going again, so I've got electricity, and then worry about where I'm going to live eventually on a more permanent basis. So I'll get some containers in, or whichever way it's going to go, and just re-establish and start off again. I don't ever want to be one of those people who sits around in old age saying, I wish I had. My life is always one where I say, why the hell did I do that? And I much prefer that I've sort of done what I want to do. And yeah, sure, you got regrets because there were some dumb decisions, but what the heck, at least I did it. And that's been the fun of it.
What my biggest fear is that the government will turn around and say, no, you can't live here, or we can't insure your place, you need to move. And that's the place that we live in here is beautiful. And I really, really love it here. My partner does, my children love it here. We need to understand it. We need to work out how to manage these fires. And if fire's part of my world, then so be it. I'll live with it.
Somehow, some way, humans have got to pull this together, and we've got to make some changes because we just don't have much longer. And it's really sad that we're leaving the world like we are for our kids and our grandkids, and it's just that's not fair for us to be just turning our back and walking away from it. And we need radical changes, not changes which bring about bloodshed or revolution, but subtle changes to the way we live our lives, where we become more localised and we abandon the concept of capitalism. It's come to an end, finally.
What do I plan to do in the future? I think it's just keep speaking out for the planet, keep trying to protect the forests and the wildlife that we've got here that survived. Keep growing vegetables, enjoying the animals. Yeah, just keep busy. Have fun, enjoy life, and try and speak out for the environment.
haven't had perfect so anything.
And it's don't play pictures. Yeah. Very honest. Yeah. Sure.
You know, definitely, but I can't say thank you enough to you guys, just for the work you've done at our place and for our community, and I'm just blown away. We've just been going through a really tough time, and you guys just given us hope when we just felt that everything was lost. And I just want to say thank you.